This is the GMAT 41's Support Student Education Initiative Program. You are welcome to our English Language Studies class. In this video, I'll be teaching you a very important part of English language, a part of speech known as the verb. Now you would likely remember that there are 8 parts of speech: noun, pronoun, verb, adverb, adjective, conjunction, preposition, and interjection. 8 parts of speech. Verb as a part of speech is very, very important. It is said that there is no complete sentence that can be made without a verb, which means in almost all sentences that we make, this part of speech known as verb must be there. In other languages as well too, verb is a part that is very important. And that is why we are giving attention to this part of speech. So what is a verb? A verb is that part of speech that shows action, all right? We refer to it as a doing word. So any word that you use that shows action, that shows that something is happening, or that shows that something will happen, or that tells us that something had happened, that word belongs to the type of part of speech known as verb. Now, there are 2 main classes of verb. Now, I'd like us to mention them. We have them on the board here. One of the class of verb is known as lexical verbs. Lexical verbs. Now, these lexical verbs are those that show action. So when you use a particular word, and when someone hears that word, the person might start acting. The person might start doing something. Such word belongs to the class of verb known as lexical verb. So let us give some examples of lexical verbs, okay? Just some of them. There are many other examples of lexical verb. You can actually add up to the list that we have here on the board. Come is an example of lexical verb. When you tell someone to come, you expect action. What will the person do? The person will start moving towards you. Is that not so? If you tell me to come now, I will start walking towards you. So I would act. That I'm moving towards you shows action. And that goes with the word come. Now we have go. When you tell someone go, what do you expect? The person will start moving away from you. It's an action. Sleep. Tell me to sleep, what will I do? I'll locate my bed and lie down, close my eyes, and I'll start sleeping. It's an action. Run, walk, fly, peek, dance, jump, and many more examples of lexical verbs. Once you use them, they show action. Someone will start doing something. Another class of verb is known as auxiliary verbs. Now, these auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs. Now, these verbs do not show action in themselves. When you use them in a sentence, they only support the main verb. They help the action verb, the lexical verb. They help them. Are you getting? So that's why we also call these auxiliary verbs, we refer to them as helping verbs as well too. Examples of these helping verbs, we have them on the board. But before we talk about their examples, let us look at 2 other types of auxiliary verbs. Okay, 2 other types of auxiliary verbs. Under these 2 other types of auxiliary verbs, we can now give examples of auxiliary verbs. The 2 classes of auxiliary verbs or types of auxiliary verbs are the primary auxiliary verbs. Primary auxiliary verbs. Examples of these verbs are is, what was, are, were, am, has, have, had. These are examples of primary auxiliary verbs. When someone tells you is, or was, or are, it doesn't show action, alright? If I tell you is now, what will you start doing? Absolutely nothing. So that's why we say that these classes of verbs are known as helping verbs. They only help the main verbs in a sentence. Alright, the second type of auxiliary verb is known as modal auxiliary verbs. Examples of modal auxiliary verbs include can, could, will, would, shall, should, and others. Now we've been able to explain and learn what a verb is. We said it's an action word generally, okay? And that there are two main classes of verbs. We have what we call the lexical verb, which is also called the main verb or action verb. We had examples of them listed on the board, and I told you there are still many more. So you think of others to add to the list. Then we have the helping verb. That's the auxiliary verb. There are two types of these auxiliary verbs. We said that we have the primary auxiliary and we have the modal auxiliary verb. Next, we are going to talk about the auxiliary verbs. We will learn about those of them that are singular and those that are plural. We'll also explain those auxiliary verbs that are present tense auxiliary verbs and the ones that are past tense auxiliary verbs.